Whether you're just beginning your divorce journey or already in the thick of it, we're so glad you're here. I'm Emily Flowers, your divorce mortgage planning specialist. And of course, we're here with Melissa Gragg. She's your financial mediator and your divorce strategist. So today we're talking about depositions and how they can feel so overwhelming before you even get started with them. But preparation reduces fear. And when you know what to gather, how to practice, how to regulate your body, and then you walk in like steady and strong. And today we're going to break down what to expect when you're prepping for depositions, right, Melissa?
Absolutely. This is going to be a great session.
I am very excited about it, actually. So I just think depositions are one of those, it's like the mystery. Nobody really knows what's going to be asked. Nobody knows what to expect when they're walking in the room. You have so much knowledge in this. It's going to be such an enlightening session. And I got to tell you, this is probably part one. I have a feeling we're going to be doing 2, maybe even 3 sessions on this one. So, Melissa, where do we start? Let's start with the basics.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we think that depositions are, just sort of a time where the other attorney is going to ask us questions. They're going to maybe try to be mean and, get us. The fact of the matter is a deposition is usually set a couple months in advance, or at least a month, right? Because you got to get both attorneys, you got to get a court reporter, and then it's going to be you and your spouse. And this is the one time that you could potentially be sitting across the, most of them are done in person because you're in town and things like that. This is not an online thing typically. Like experts are a little bit different. But when we're really focused on the people who are getting deposed. And so this is something that everybody's schedule gets coordinated and they will start and they could plan to be there for 2 to 4 to 6 hours. So, and you'll usually receive like a subpoena for your records or to bring certain things. Sometimes it's just to officially tell you when to show up and where to show up. And so when you're getting prepared for that, you would typically think, I will talk to my lawyer about it. And a lot of times I see them prep, a day or 2 in advance or even the day before. And what we're recommending is that this is a little bit more important than just prepping the day before. And so we're probably talking weeks before so that you can not only get your mind ready, but you can get like what you're going to talk about, what are your answers going to be. So if we go all the way back to kind of the beginning and you have this date set, it's typically going to be at your spouse's lawyer's office. Okay. So you're not going to be on comfortable ground. You need to get there early, but you're also going to be across the table from them. And so that's going to be really distracting. It's different in Zoom when you can put a little Post-it above their face and not look at them. But in this situation, you really have to be able to, out of the corner of, so if you're talking to the other lawyer who's going to ask you the questions and they're sitting right next to them, they're going to be in your line of view the whole time. And so it becomes very important. A lot of our tells are in our body language. It's in whether we're shaking, whether we're nervous, whether we're stuttering, whether we're taking too many sips of water. Like it's going to be very apparent. It's also going to be apparent on your face. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, again, odds are the same day is going to be that they're going to depose, your lawyer is going to depose him and their lawyer is going to depose you, right? So you're both kind of on the hot seat. A lot of times, whoever is the petitioner or the person that filed for divorce could potentially be the first deposition that's happening, right? But the strategy typically, and again, if you're not scheduled on the same day, you might want to ask your attorney why not. because there is a strategy for both of you kind of being in that hot seat at the same time. And also you're paying everybody to be there. So it would be best if one goes in the morning, one goes in the afternoon, and that's what we do for experts as well. But in getting prepared for that, I think some of the basics that we just have to understand is that you are prepping with your attorney, and your attorney does not necessarily perform in a depo. So they do not get asked these questions. They are the person asking the questions. So when you're thinking about like, well, what are they going to ask me? And you think, well, I have to wait till my attorney tells me. No, you need to start thinking, this lawyer is trying to get you to either lie on the stand. They're trying to catch you in a lie. So they're going to ask you questions and then they're going to present some documents to you and be like, I gotcha. Ha ha. Right. And so you need to kind of sit back and say, what areas are they going to get those I gotchas? Right. And and I think that this session will kind of go high level in all these areas. And then we'll come back around and give you really tangible ways, or you can join the Divorce Allies and get a lot more ways in our life. But at the end of the day, you need to go through, where did you mess up? Where are, where did you do some wrongdoing? Was it cheating? Is it spending? But for the most part, they're going to be asking you questions about expenses, your income, what you could potentially earn. Have you been looking for a job? Are you fully employed? What are your expenses? Why did you put those on your financial disclosures? Did you actually look back at historically what you spend, or did you just make up a number that I spent $500 a month on my hair and nails and beauty, right? So they're going to walk you through because you're going to be asking typically for spousal support. It's called alimony or maintenance, or child support. And that is calculated on a state by state basis based on your income and expenses. These are things that you already put on your financial disclosures when you first started this process. So yes, they're going to ask you about personal things, like, do not be confused. They will ask you about bedroom activities. They will ask you if you guys have had, sort of deviant behaviors in that situation. Even if you both have participated, this is going to be an opportunity. All the skeletons in the closet are going to be pulled out. And so you have to say, okay, what's the worst questions they could ask? And do I have a good answer for it? And what documentation do I have to prove it? If every month you go to the salon and you spend $350, and then you go to the nail place and you spend $100, and then you spend $50 at Sephora or some beauty place, you're going to want to prove that you have those expenses, that they have been regular expenses over time, right? If you have kid expenses, this is going to be a bigger place. Like, do we have little Johnny in hockey? Do we have little Susie in cheer? Like, these are expenses. You're going to want some summaries. Anything that so as an expert, I don't testify from memory. I will refer to a document if I'm going to have an opinion about it. You are not an expert witness. You are a fact witness, essentially. So you are just coming in to talk about facts. Here are my expenses. Here is what I did. Here is what he did, right? But this is his attorney asking you questions. So he's probably not going to ask you questions about your spouse. He's going to ask you questions about you. Okay. So in those situations, they're going to be open-ended questions in order to get you to talk a lot. So this is where that position statement, if you're going to bring documentation into your deposition, you need to understand that they can then ask you to see it. They can actually read it. They could even enter it in as an exhibit. Okay. So that's why sometimes your lawyer might say, don't bring anything. I think you need to strategically bring things that support, if they said, well, you went on a trip with your boyfriend, and you're like, no, I actually went with another friend or some situation like that, you need to bring some sort of documentation. So everything that you bring, be willing to allow the other side to look at it. So this is not your scribble scrabble notes. This is not your journal that you're gonna be like, look, I wrote in my journal, because they'll literally, like, they could enter your entire journal as evidence because you brought it in. Like, as an expert, I don't bring anything. I don't even get anything out of my purse that I don't expect for them to look at. So that's where the position statement, you could have a cheat sheet for the deposition, but it needs to be facts. When the dates, like, what date did you move into the house? What date was there an inheritance? What date did you find out that they cheated? Sometimes you're even trying to lock down the date of separation if that is important in your state, or if that is a disagreement. And they're going to try to lock down your expenses. Well, how do you know those expenses? That's what I kind of spend. Okay, well, that's not a great answer, as opposed to, here's the 5 pages, or, here's 6 months of that one line item where every single month I go to that place, right? Every 6 months, every month I have pet expenses. Every month we have kid expenses. Like, you're proving out income. The other thing is, they're going to kind of try to attack you on income. Like, are you educated? How did you guys decide to stay at home? Who decided, right? And you don't know anything about the finances. Why don't you know anything? Have you ever asked to talk to the CPA? Have you ever asked to go? Because what's the other side going to say? You just spend, 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 and you don't know anything. You don't even know the bills, right? Do you know who your mortgage provider is? Do you know what your utility company? I got to tell you, I've had clients that didn't know the utility company, right? There's typically only one in your area. Like, this is not rocket science. So again, you might have a statement that has that information, because you don't need to go in and memorize all of this. You can bring in a mortgage statement and be like, oh, okay, well, I know our mortgage is this. I know that I can afford it. I know that I can still stay in this house. Like, these are the things that they're trying to get you to commit to, because they will potentially try to use it against you in court. And so that's the big picture. I know I probably went too far in some areas, but it's getting you started, right?
No, it's great points. There was a lot of nuggets in there with how to be prepared and why, and where the questioning is going to come from. And really, one of the hardest things I think that it would hard for me would be, okay, so I really got to dig deep and drum up all the things that I've ever done that are probably not very favorable. And I now have to go back and face some of that. And I think that is one of the hardest things. And then I got to talk about it. Like, I'm pretty private about a lot of things. I can imagine most people are. And bedroom talk in a public setting would be extremely challenging, or other factors. But I love that we're kind of minimizing the answer to fact only. And we're also backing it up with documentation. Yeah, in the housing part of a divorce, or depositions, or mediation, or whatever, you got to know a lot of facts. You got to have a lot of documentation, because it's not just like, oh, my mortgage is this and the house is worth this. Can I get a loan? Like, it doesn't work that way. There's 85 things I need to know in order to process through that information to let you know if you're even eligible to keep the house. So yeah, I think having some really clear talking points and backup and a clean little binder is a great way to go. So what about, so many women worry about what they'll be asked and all of that. And I think there's maybe even a little fear of over rehearsing maybe. And is that possible? Do you want it to sound over rehearsed?
Yes.
Okay.
You cannot be too prepared. I will say when I first started this process, for every hour that I thought I was going to be deposed, I probably prepped for 10.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So if you're going into a deposition, the odds are your deposition is going to be 4 to 6 hours and it's going to be intense, right? So we say take a break every hour, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, get a snack, reset, talk to your lawyer, say, how am I doing? Da, da, da. But at the end of the day, the more prepared you are. So if you're going for 4 to 6 hours, that's 40 hours of prep, right? When I go in, I have thought of 1,000 questions that they're going to ask me, and they will ask me 50 to 100. So that means I'm always over prepared. But in that process, I am succinct. I am clear. I am very efficient with the time. I'm not going to drone on about a story that they're literally going to use little tidbits against me, or you get nervous and our nervousness gets us talking too much, right? And so we're filling the time and we're filling the space. We're talking over the lawyer where, and they're going to come in very nice. They're going to ask you softball questions at the beginning. They're almost going to make you want to like them, right? Now, toxic spouses hire toxic lawyers, and so you probably don't like them, and so you'll be on to their game. But they are performing for a group as well. And the court reporter is taking down all words that are said. So if there are no words that are said that you need time, they ask you a question and you're like, everybody's just sitting there. The court reporter is just sitting there like on bated breath. If there's a video recording, obviously that would be recorded. But a lot of times we're still just doing the court reporting, or they're actually doing like something that they talk into. So those are the two things right now. But right, for that purpose, you want to be very succinct. Like, do you want to be there for 8 hours or do you want to be there for 4 hours? Do you want to be combative in your responses? No. But what you want to show is you are prepared. You came with the documents to support you so that you didn't have to remember, so that you can actively listen to what they say. You are only answering the question they are asking. And where they start to get really nasty is towards the middle and towards the end, right? They're not going to be nasty at the beginning. And they could, because they're trying to see how you respond. They're looking for blood. The moment they smell blood, they're going to go in, right? And it's going to be the most passive aggressive type of situation where they're going to ask you some nasty questions with a smile on their face. And so, but they're probably not going to be kind of mean to you until you start engaging or thinking that you can have a smart ass response. This is not the time. This is facts. You have to be unemotional in this process because you prepared and practiced 1,000 different questions. You have literally read them into a voice memo. You have literally like answered your question. You look back at it, you're like, well, that wasn't great. How would I say it different? Ask AI. If you're recording it as a voice memo, ask AI to get it a little bit more, tightened up. But at all times, yes, they're asking the questions. They're not totally listening to your question. They're going to ask you some questions over and over again to see if you change your story during that time frame, right? They're going to ask them different to you because they're going to hope that you're nervous. They're going to be more paying attention to how you perform in the deposition, because then they can understand how you're going to do at trial. And if you're a hot mess and you're blathering on and you look dysregulated, then the judge is not going to find you as a credible witness. Okay. And trust me, at trial, they're going to go in hard. They're going to make you feel like a fool, but they've already asked you those questions. So this is the time for a lawyer to ask you all the questions that they don't know the answer to. They don't know the answer of what you're going to say. Like, hey, we saw that you bought this thing for $2,000. What was it? Right? And they're probably going to show you a statement that says, oh, Hermes, what did you buy? Oh, that was my husband bought me that for a gift, right? Gifts are sometimes separate, right? So these are important things. But at all times, they are not asking you yes or no questions, okay? What they will do is say, I asked you a question and you did not answer the question. So I'm going to ask it to you again. And they're going to start treating you like a child, okay? And so you have to, the reason why we say wait for 5 seconds is because when they ask you a question, did you hear it? Do you have a response? Did you understand the question? Do not just start answering because what you thought you heard. Oh, I know what you want from me. Mm-mm. If they ask the question wrong and they ask you, like, is your couch blue? And you're like, oh, no, it's not blue, it's red. They didn't ask you that. They asked if your couch was blue, and the answer is no. You don't have to educate them. You have to answer the question. There's many times where I'm not asked all the right questions. That is okay. It is their opportunity to ask those questions. And if they don't, that's their fault. It doesn't make it that you can't testify to something else on the stand. It means that they should have asked everything that was important that they are trying to then impeach you when you go to trial. So you answer the question, you wait those 5 seconds, you listen. If you do not understand the question, you say, I do not understand the question. Sometimes you can almost tell, like, I think they're walking me down a path to catch me. Then ask for it to be repeated. Could you repeat it in another way? The other reason why we're sort of pausing before we answer is you still have the opportunity for an objection. Okay. So your attorney can object to the question. And what will happen is it is for the record. So I'm objecting for the record, but that means that you then still have to answer it. But if you don't allow them that time and space, then they can't lodge that objection. Okay. And they can't tell you, hey, if you know the answer, go ahead and answer. But if you don't know the answer, don't answer. That is your lawyer guiding you to the fact of listen to what they're saying, right? And so if your attorney does that, I will typically turn around and be like, okay, maybe I didn't understand the question. Could you repeat it? And sometimes they'll ask the court reporter to repeat it back verbatim, or they will re-say it in another way. But you have to allow that this is a sort of cat and mouse game, that you need to allow them to have that time. So that's some of the cadence of it, or the things that you should kind of be prepared for. So that was a lot. And maybe that
is a lot. Here's what I think, though. I think we take this super slow. You've really, like, we've gone from like a little bit of like prep to like, this is what strategy. To expect, to strategy. And so here's where I kind of want to wrap it up almost for today and prep for the next one. And so
I think one thing that the thing that you have control over, that you don't need your lawyer for, you don't need an expert for, start putting together all the possible questions that you think that they could ask you. The bad ones, the good ones. Let's say your husband spills all the beans about every bad deed, right? What could they ask you? What would be your response? Record it, and then try to make your response tighter, more efficient, more factual. Well, that happened. That did not happen. Here's what happened. and what documents do I need to support what my testimony is going to be. That's going to be a great start to the whole process. And then we can talk more about what to expect and how to deal with those lines of questioning when it gets rough.
Yeah, when I'm rehearsing for like a presentation or something like that, which is what this is, a lot of the times I'll get on, this is StreamYard, Zoom, it doesn't matter, and just sit there and record myself so that I can look for, am I umming? Am I doing this? Did I pause before the question and answer? Did I do this? Did I do that? And that's a really handy way for you to start practicing. When you're, the day before shouldn't be, and you're meeting with the attorney or whatever, should not be when the first time that you've recorded yourself or done this line of questioning. You should have picked a buddy or something, or just recorded it and been doing this for weeks and weeks and weeks, same thing over and over again, refining.
Zoom is good, and you might just have to delete the recording afterwards so that it's deleted before that. But again, who cares? Like, I mean, just here's the thing is, you're going to have facial expressions that also tell everything. So if you have things that you do whenever you need to think, just do them a lot. So then somebody can't figure out if you're thinking, if you're not, like if you always are going to or look to the side when you don't know a question, then look to the side a lot. Just double down on that issue so that they can't figure out when it happens. It's a tell. You will eliminate the tell.
And I definitely think we should go a little bit more into tells one of the next times too, because I'm just speaking from me personally. I'm a very like, it's written all over my face sort of girl. So I would really have to practice, because I've had people say that to me. They're like, oh, you like reacted to blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh really? I didn't realize that at all. So I think this is a great beginning, but I think we ought to come back and try to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So again, we're going to finish up part 1, where preparation turns fear into focus, and documents and practice and grounding means that you'll walk in ready to your deposition, and you won't have the tells, you won't have the panic. You'll be ready for all the tea to be spilled, frankly. Yeah. So
the more prepared you are, I think the more prepared you are, the less likely that they're going to take you to trial. The more likely you can get it settled, because they're going to be like, oh, she's going to show up great. Exactly. Nice. You cannot be over prepared in this situation.
I cannot wait for this conversation to continue. I truly love hearing about this and like thinking about the ways that I would prepare for something. So join us either in the circle for weekly help on all of these things. We go way in depth there. Join us on the next little session we're going to film. And if you want to go deeper, our vault has templates and rubrics and guides for pretty much everything. So we're here to help you. And I kind of smell a little deposition something coming.
Definitely a good guide.
I definitely smell that happening. So let's keep it up. And thank you, Melissa. This is so helpful.
All right. See you soon.